Need fosters frustration. Frustration, frustration goes into anger. Anger leads to hatred. Hatred generates violence, and violence sometimes soothes. That's Dean Koontz from Mr. Murder, courtesy of one brother Ryan Adam Jenkins. Kind of piqued my Dean Koontz interest, and I went looking for further quotes, and I came up with this one. Keep in mind the roots of violence: lust, envy, anger, avarice, vengeance, the taproot, the killer's ultimate and truest motivation. And watch this one closely, is the hatred of truth. The hatred of truth is a vice. From it comes pride and an enthusiasm for disorder. Now, we can take either one of those quotes at face value or dig a little deeper, or maybe even do the lefty thing and get into some serious intellectual gymnastics and break out the yoga mats. But in a time and a day and a civilization where this man is considered a dangerous purveyor of horrible, potentially homicidal misinformation, while these two lunatics, partisans, hacks, are considered legitimate, objective voices for news. In a day and age where this woman is considered not only a real First Nation person, I say that to avoid saying Indian and getting banned from Facebook, while this person is not only an enemy of this person for being one of those shiftless billionaires living off the taxpayer dollars, but this person is actually a threat to the taxpayer, while this woman is an advocate for the working class. In a day and age where this is considered a peaceful protest, while this is considered a dangerous act of violence and domestic terrorism, what does any of it really mean anymore? I think about the Dean Koontz quotes, and then I come back after a roundabout examination, and I keep coming back to this one from somebody a little more prominent than Mr. Koontz, a fallen president, who said that those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. When the suppression of truth becomes doctrine, when lies and false narratives become law, we have arrived at that moment where peaceful revolution may be impossible and violent revolution inevitable. Now, while no sane person would revel in such a moment, I promise you that I and others like me, should it come to that unpleasant eventuality, will not shy from it. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and certainly not employers. Let me say that again. Certainly not employers. For you docs happy lefties out there, nice try. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of the truth cock. It's that time once again, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Sunday Sermon. Been an interesting week, man. A lot of stuff going on a personal front and on the international front. But we're all here. We made it. Everybody in for the drum roll. Where's the fire? Oh, I fucking love you guys, man. We pulled this shirt out of retirement. Dave's Vault, motherfuckers. God wills it. God wills it. Or something. I don't know, man. We'll roll through it, man. We can take the volume down a little bit, do a quick roll call, and see if all the usual suspects are on. I saw a lot of you guys gathered. Sorry, we had a little bit of hiccups with the internet connection, and it's still kind of fading in and out. So let's hope for the best and hope we get through it. She was on board. We got brother Dennis, brother Joel. We got Roman and Carrie from OBTales.com. Always good to see you guys. Let me see who else. Who else we got? Brother James Pearson. Always good to see you, man. Glad you made it out early. Sorry that wound up with me running a little bit late. By the way, guys, if the internet connection is dragging, kind of bring it to my attention. We're going to work around with it as much as we can. Brother Wayne Sharp. if Yeah, I can think of a few myself there, man. Unique in his writing. That is also true, Brother James Pearson, definitely. All right, man. Happy to have everybody on board. All the usual suspects have gathered. I am looking at this little point pink right here on my production screen, and it is telling me that the internet signal is a little weak. We're going to make the best we can with what we have. You know what? I'm going to try to up it right now, guys. If it blinks out, don't let me lose you. Yeah. All right. Well, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, man. We give it a shot. Apparently, we're connected. We're still secured. Telling me up here on the production screen that we're still on board. So, we're going to go ahead and roll with it. Glad how you guys made it out, man. Again, every Sunday that you make it out, you maybe feel like a little less like a lone voice in the wilderness. Thank you for that, Roman. Yeah, hopefully it'll straighten out. Man, we get the signal boost on it. Should straighten it out. There we go. Blink put back on. All right, cool. I was going to try to keep it together, man. It's again, I'm a one-man operation here. I don't have a production staff. It's just me with a webcam and a laptop and just a crane operator with some opinions. That's about it. Brother John Goldsmith, nice to have you on board, man. Good to see you, man. All right, we're going to go ahead and fade the music out. We're going to go ahead and get rolling with this thing. We got a few things to jump into, and I want to leave myself plenty of room and plenty of time because then we are going to wind up at some point going down Tangent Street. That is right, and I'll give myself a little bit of space for that. But anyway, man, we're gonna roll with it, man. Happy to have you guys on board. Thank you again. You guys turn out. Just a fat, toothless cripple, a crane operator with some opinions, but you guys keep showing up Sunday after Sunday. I appreciate every damn one of you, man. Thank you for that. Go ahead and fade the music out. The bumper music, as always. I forgot to give a shout out the last couple of weeks, but for those of you who didn't already know, the name of the band is Red Desert from the smoldering embers of the once great city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the track is Older, No Wiser, because every week I do this, I get a little bit older, and every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. But you got to admit, that's a fucking jam, dude. That is a fucking jam. And by the way, man, if you haven't looked up Red Desert, because I've been using this as bumper music, just kind of tacit permission, man. I dropped the guy an email, a little Facebook message. I was like, "Hey, look, man, I do a Facebook Live and I use you guys for bumper music." And he was kind of thumbs up about it. Oh, G-Dub, hey, man, right on. Glad that you made it. Same cell block. Gonna end Facebook soon. I don't blame you, man. Lifer. Zuckerberg Penitentiary. I'm going to get some T-shirts made, maybe. Yeah, Zuckerberg Penitentiary Lifer. Yeah, because some of us are there. George, how is Lockup doing, buddy? Thanks to Mo for helping out. Yeah, man, we got to give shout outs to Moses, man, my buddy over in Montana. Me and Moses go back a long way. I feel like I've known him all my life. And, we've been through a lot of adventures together. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but he's down for me no matter what. And now that he's got his Elon Musk Starlink account set up and he's actually got some decent internet connection while I am in Facebook jail, he is basically handling the tasks from his little remote spot out there in Montana, where last communication I had with him, he's under about 3 feet of fucking snow right now. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But Moses, my brother, Mr. Moses Baxter, thank you so much for holding things down. And eventually, I don't know, eventually I'll get him on the program and we'll we'll do that live interview and we'll recant some old tales, at least the ones that the statute of limitations has run out on. So that's good. But G-Dub, I'm glad you showed, because we are going to be going into some of the trucker thing. By the way, you guys that don't know, GW Bowles has done a lot for the pro. Well, he's done a lot for me personally. He's done a lot for the program, getting the word out, spreading that gospel, turning a lot of new people, new fans on to the program. G-Dub he was on, was it, which one of the trucker programs, G-Dub? I always look at, he is an outlaw trucker by trade, and he is a hardworking son of a bitch. He's out there on the road just clocking the fucking miles. I can never remember which one of the trucker reality shows he was on, but I do remember it was the one with my little blonde hottie, and I was really fucking jealous that he got to share a cab with that chick. Anyway, but he's done a lot, man, and he's got the word out to the community and on his Twitter feed, and again, supporting the truckers. Is that it? Okay, here we go. IRT Deadliest Road Season 2. Okay, cool, man. Thanks for the update on that. You guys go check that out online. But yeah, G-Dub and I have not always seen eye to eye on everything. Probably still don't on a lot of levels. But the one thing that anchors this is the one thing that should anchor everybody that shows up here, and that is a devout passion for being able to express one's views without restriction, without hazard, the benefits of living in a free society and embracing the benefits of liberty. And of course, the responsibilities that come with that, the work ethic that is compelled by such a thing, the kind of people, what was it? I mean, several of the founders made reference to this, that the kind of government they set up would be fine for a moral people and none other. And there has to be a certain level of responsibility that comes with that liberty, and there's a certain moral code that comes along with that. But anyway, I'm a big fan. Being a blue collar guy myself, I'm out here, in Oregon right now running cranes. Again, there's the tagline, just a crane operator with some opinions. But I'm out here running cranes in Central Oregon right now. I've always had a tremendous respect for the blue collar ethic, and the truckers fucking epitomize that. We're going to get into more. I got to knock out a couple of things before we get to the trucker stuff. But who would have thought, particularly listening to the mainstream narrative, that truck drivers would be the anchor that winds up unraveling the narrative and ultimately potentially shaving liberty. James Pearson, don't always agree, but we'll fight beside you for your right to. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that me and brother James Pearson have bonded over. And again, here is the thing too, while we're on the subject of liberty and responsibility, protecting all of these things, James Pearson is of the law enforcement community. My respect for legitimate law enforcement is well known and well fucking documented. My disrespect for people who engage in those egregious overreaches can also not possibly be overstated. We share that sentiment because he is rank and file, and he is a damn good man. He is a damn good man and a pure fucking soul when it comes to that. And when I say pure fucking soul, I don't mean that, he's, I've never had a cigarette and I certainly don't touch alcohol. I'm not talking about that kind of pure soul. I'm talking about a true fucking sheepdog. I'm talking about a true fucking appointed, genetically hardwired guardian of what I determine personally to be the good people. And I realize that definition is entirely fucking subjective, but it's my fucking show. So if you don't dig it, throw your own podcast out and let's hear what your latest hit is, Sparky. Anyway. And once again, we knew that we were going to wind up going down Tangent Drive. That's right. All right, let me get back on the main highway here. Can't refocus. A couple of shout outs I want to give real quick. Of course, the sponsor shout outs. First of all, to Roman and his lovely wife, Carrie, and to Allie and Roxy, the bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pin-ups and portraits people. If you dig artistic impressions of beautiful, naked, at least mostly naked, and sometimes entirely naked, beautiful female forms, that's the place to go. And if you want that coupled with very intellectual, very critically thought out, and very exacting testosterone driven commentary, go see my boy Roman. Not only is he a flagship sponsor of the program, but he's also one of my oldest and deepest friends. And one of these days, when we can reveal his actual identity live, without fear of without fear of repercussions, then we'll get into some very interesting stories about how we met and some of the things that we have shared over the years. And I think you'll find that fascinating. Also, sponsor shout out to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. You may disagree, but you would be fucking wrong. Get out and try it for yourself. Guy Fieri has the thumbs up seal of approval. Sonny Puzikis, that's right. Those ribs are now Spetsnaz approved. So go check them out. They've set up the Viking Longship, their big smoker truck. They're setting up an American Gun and Pawn. Every Thursday they start at 11 and they go until they run out, and they run out fucking quickly because the line around American Gun and Pawn, you would think it was fucking junkies at a pill mill doctor, because they're lined up around the block before the place even opens, and they all have that same look like, hey, my fix. Don't be alarmed. Go buy American Gun and Pawn on Sprague. Don't be alarmed. They're not junkies waiting for a pill mill doctor to open. They are there and they are waiting for the smoker truck. You are in the right place. So definitely go see them, man. Good friends of mine, good friends of the program, and long-term sponsors, and I'm happy to have them on board on all fronts. So go check them out. God damn it. All right. Let's see here. First segment that I want to get into is the infamous, and now we're going to have to get tricky with the soundboard here. Let me see if I can get this volume back up. The infamous Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Thank you very much. Ryan Adam Jenkins, Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Every week we do things a little bit different. We take a little trip down the rabbit hole. Sometimes it is obscure. Sometimes it is esoteric. Sometimes it is conspiratorial, but it is always entertaining. Ryan's Rabbit Hole segment. And basically what we do is we give you a little poke in your bread oven, just something that you might not have explored, a little obscure kind of thing that might, you might dig into it. You might dig into it a little bit and be like, not really my thing. Or you might dig into it and go, wow, that's really fucking interesting, and I've never fucking heard of that. The Great Amherst Mystery is since Canada is in the news right now, the maple leaf poutine eating motherfuckers. Canada's in the news right now. It's something that took place back in the late 1800s in Amherst, which is in Nova Scotia, which is a province of Canada. For those of you guys who don't know how it works, because Canada, we kind of forget they're up there sometimes until Trudeau does something stupid or a shitload of truckers come uncorked and block the fucking border. We tend to just forget those people are even there. Anyway, with apologies to Jordan Peterson. Sorry, Professor, but it is what it is, brother. And you do sound like Kermit the Frog, and you're a good sport about that, and I love you for it. Anyway, there was a woman by the name of Esther Cox who lived in a house with her sister Olive, who I believe had a different last name. Anyway, apparently when she was very young, she was subjected to a sexual assault at gunpoint, and it fucked with her. And I don't know if you guys ever saw it. There was I want to say the name of the movie, the name of the film was The Entity. It was an 80s film, and it was based loosely on that. Because afterwards, these hauntings started happening, and these were not the kind of hauntings where it was like spooky, like, ooh, boogie, boogie. No, this is like shit getting knocked off of walls and fucking clothes being ripped from flesh, actual marks being left on flesh, as if these women were being sexually assaulted by non-physical entities. And it's really it's heavy. Walter Hubble is the guy that investigated it. Hubble was actually an actor at first and decided that he was going to dig his way into, and basically wanted to dispel the whole fucking thing. Now, some people have impugned Hubble's credibility, that he was just profiting off the damn thing to to boost his own shagging career or to make money off the book deal, which he did. I mean, in all fairness, he did make a considerable amount of money off the book deal. But the further that you go into this, the weirder it gets. And again, it'll jack with your perception of non-physical entities. Some of you guys, I'm sure, don't believe in ghosts at all whatsoever. Ghost spirits, souls, whatever. There are plenty of you out there, and you're entitled to that. Some people think that the soul is just, that souls inhabit this flesh for a time and they move on, and maybe there's an afterlife and a heaven and a hell, or just, you rejoin the great consciousness. You have all of this. But the general social perception of ghosts are, it's spooky. It's spooky and it's frightening and it's disturbing, but violent is something you don't generally associate with like hauntings and ghosts and such. I mean, unless you've already been down this and other related rabbit holes. So I want you guys to look into it. Again, Walt Hubble. Walt Hubble was the gentleman's name that wrote the book. Esther Cox was the original victim along with her sister, and they were, again, if you believe the accounts, violently assaulted, sexually assaulted by non-physical entities. So anyway, that is Ryan's rabbit hole for the week, and you guys go down that one as deep as you want. It's pretty scary stuff. It's spooky, and if you need something that's going to keep you awake at night, you either read a book by Richard Preston, or you go down that rabbit hole and learn about the Amherst mystery. A little sip of the liquid enthusiasm when we jump right back into it. Oh, what would life be without caffeine? Okay, so go ahead and put that scroll down at the bottom. So I wanted to get into what we had talked about in the header was the Great Awakening and the Great Unraveling. Now, when I say the Great Awakening, there is a point, if we want to go back to some classic poetry that we can dig up, where the ends become so polarized that the center can no longer hold. And we're not only at that point, we're way past it. But the polarization has happened in such a way that it's literally one side has eliminated itself from the equation due to overreach. One of the criticisms that I always hear and entertain and even agree with regard to conservatives across the board and self-declared Republicans in particular is the fact that when they hold power, they don't do anything with it. Why? Because they tend to be more principled. Now, you may disagree with those principles, but they stand on them. And one of them is fair play. I don't want to kick a guy when he's down. Let's help him back up and keep this a fair fight. And they forget and this is what I love about you, Brother Pearson. And George, yes, I have heard about them harvesting DNA as well as harvesting human organs. The human organ trade is alive and well, and a lot of that coming out of China as well. If people even knew the brutality that was involved with this regime, whose peckers Pelosi keeps puffing, it's unfucking believable what these people are doing. And once one comes to the inescapable realization that our very Oval Office is compromised to these bodies, it becomes even more terrifying. But again, further down the line here, the Great Awakening and the Great Unraveling, hard to tell which one preceded the other, because, of course, it took everybody getting red-pilled and seeing the excesses. And the one thing that I will say for the left is that they can be counted on for one thing always, and that is the overreach. They have this tendency, in fact, it's an inescapable tendency to overreach. They get it, and it used to be they understood incrementalism. We'll take a little bit now. We'll take a little bit now. We'll take a little bit now, and eventually you wind up with all of it. You get that final goal, um, just a little bit at a time. We want reasonable, common sense gun control measures, and eventually they want confiscation. They're never honest about what they want up front, but at least they understood incrementalism before. I think they took the kindness and fair play element of conservatives as weakness, and they overreach. There's a number of reasons for that. Part of it, I think, is just in their nature. But moreover, beyond it being in their nature, it's beyond it being just in their nature. They realize that they have a narrow window because so many. It's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle. So many people are getting red pilled, and they realize that their window is closing. They realize that the amount of time that they have before the midterms, where they're going to be utterly crushed, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So they've got to grab for everything right now. Unfortunately, they spent the last 2 years fucking shooting their load, and also good point, brother James. But they wasted a load on nothing. They wasted their entire power load on a cadaver and a whore. Let me be unequivocal about that. The man who is occupying the Oval Office right now isn't controlling shit. Anyone with 2 brain cells to rub together can clearly fucking realize that. If you don't, then you're willfully blind. It does beg the question, who is actually fucking running things? But again, he is an addled cadaver, way into early onset dementia. Yeah. Very important. The perils of live entertainment. Let me call you back in 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Yeah, the perils of live entertainment. Anyway, yes, we are. We're in that position where they've got that addled cadaver in the White House and a whore as a backup plan. A whore who couldn't pull 1% of her own party's votes in the primary, which is disturbing enough that they still picked her because she ticked all the boxes. And again, you have to believe, okay, only one of 2 things are possible here. 81 million votes, a record, the most properly elected president in U.S. history. Okay. And inside of a year, your approval ratings are under 30%. Okay. Only 2 things are possible there. Either A, you didn't get 81 million votes in the first place. We can debate that all day long. Or B, because if you leave aside A, B is the only other option, that you did get 81 million and you fucked up so bad in less than a year that you're under 30% approval rating. Only 1 or 2 things are possible. But again, the credibility of the media is gone. When you have Joe Rogan, and you can say what you want about Joe. Joe and I are not friends. Okay, I am mutual friends with a number of Joe's friends. But I've got to hang out and interact at length with Joe Rogan on a number of occasions at UFC after parties, at comedy green rooms in Houston. I've got some funny stories that I could tell you about a prank that we pulled on Rob Mungall, one of the Whiskey Brothers, but I'll leave Slade Ham and Sam Damaris to tell you about that one. It was pretty funny. Went and had dinner with these comedian friends of mine and Rogan and Joey Diaz and Ari Shaffir, who was on tour with him at the time when he played the Laugh Stop in Houston. I found him to be sincere. I found him to be self-deprecating. I found him to be very, very fucking genuine. And there is nothing that you see him do on that podcast that is out of character for him as a human being, in my estimation. Now, I don't know the guy as well as plenty of other people do, but I guarantee you I know him better than any of the motherfuckers that have never listened to a single episode of the podcast. and who disparage him anyway. We're getting off task here. Again, going off on a tangent. When Joe Rogan becomes the voice that people trust more than the mainstream media narrative, what does that say? They want to dog him out, they want to shut him down, but what does that say when Joe Rogan becomes more trustworthy than people who have been the voice of legacy media for decades? What does it say about the credibility, the credibility that is taken? They need to be focusing less on Joe and more on themselves. But here's where it's all falling apart. And when I talk about the great unraveling and the great awakening, or the great awakening rather, this is Ned Price. He's a State Department spokesman. They've been trying to push the Russia false flag media narrative. And of course, the mainstream legacy press basically serves them up softballs and lets them get away with it. But just the other day, an Associated Press reporter had enough. And just because I said so is apparently not going to be it anymore. And I'm just going to play the audio clip for you here.
Well, you made an allegation that they might.
Russia continues to engage in disinformation.
Well, you made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I have just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously this is not the first time we've made these reports public. You'll remember that just a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry, made what report public?
If you'll let me finish, I will tell you what report we made public. We told you a few weeks ago that we have information indicating Russia also has already prepositioned a group of operatives to conduct a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine. So that, Matt, to your question, is an action that Russia has already taken.
It's an action that you say that they have taken, but you have shown no evidence to confirm that. And I'm going to get to the next question here, which is, what is the evidence that this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting into now.
With apologies to
what
Alex.
Evidence do you have to support the idea that there is some propaganda film in the making?
Now, this is derived from information known to the U.S. government, intelligence information that we have declassified. I think you know.
Okay, well, where is it? Where is this information?
It is intelligence information that we have declassified.
Well, where is it? Where's the declassified information?
I just delivered it.
No, you made a series of allegations and statements.
Would you like us to print out the topper? Because you will see a transcript of this briefing that you can print out for yourself.
That's not evidence, Ned. That's you saying it. That's not evidence. I'm sorry.
What would you like, Matt?
I would like to see some proof that you can show that
Matt, you have been
that shows that the Russians are doing this.
It goes on. You guys can find this stuff for yourself. It is Ned Price, Matt Lee. Those are your Google search terms. Ned Price, Matt Lee. Matt Lee is the Associated Press reporter that pushed back against Ned Price, the State Department spokesman. Now, these are people that are used to getting served softball questions. They've been trying to deliver this bullshit fucking narrative, and they can't sell it. Why? Because they've got nothing. Right? Now, Maddow and that Maddow guy and his scary fucking faithful and that Stelter chick and her followers, it's pretty fucking scary that anyone would abdicate their own critical thinking to allow such blatant partisan hacks to do their thinking for them. But they say it. Russian false flag operation as a pretext to invade Ukraine, and we said that it is. But what are they lacking? The same thing they lacked for 4 years on the collusion narrative. Evidence. What do you got? We just declassified it. Okay, but what is it? Well, we just told you. We just told you that Russia has set up a false flag, and that's information that we have. Oh, could we see some evidence? Well, we just declassified it. Okay, what'd you declassify? Well, we just told you. In other words, because we said so, Sparky, that's not going to fly anymore. The fact that the fact that a reporter for the Associated Press actually had the balls to stand up to a State Department spokesman, More evidence. But here's where it gets from Davos, Switzerland. And what do you know about Davos? Davos is one of those things that's spoken about in hushed whispers, like the Bilderberg meeting. It's another one of those crazy tinfoil hat things that doesn't actually exist, where, the elites of the world don't fucking come together to discuss their plans for, the herd and anything like that. Because, any speculation to that aspect is purely tinfoil hat Alex Jones territory. Meanwhile, please believe our false flag crisis actor situation that we've arranged for you in Ukraine, courtesy of the United States State Department. But here's where the would-be leaders start panicking.
Panelists.
At Davos a few years ago, the Edelman survey showed us that the good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more.
This is Mary Woods. She is a professor of economic development, and she's speaking at the World Economic Forum. Again, she leads by saying that the good news is that the elites trust each other more and more. Now, here's why I'm having to be real exacting in this clip, because I had to steal this part from Paul Joseph Watson, and I'll tell you why. Here's the quote again. Let me just bring the volume up a little bit. Mary Woods, professor of economic development at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Great Reset, another one of those tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. This is her in her own words.
Davos a few years ago, the Edelman survey showed us that the good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more. So we can come together and design and do beautiful things together. The bad news is that in every single country they were polling, the majority of people trusted that elite less.
Ponder what she is saying to you. Ponder how they are laughing in your fucking faces. The good news is that your devout chosen overlords trust each other more, and we can come together and do greater things like the Great Reset and massive COVID-based power grabs and this sort of thing. Pull the wool over your eyes, beg for media censorship, make you beg for media censorship by generating enough fear. Yes, we can do all of these things. That's the good news. The bad news is what? That in every single, and please, yes, Dennis, that is messed up, and you should look it up. But here's where it gets creepy, and I'll tell you here. I'll give you a little bit more in a second. The bad news is that in every country they polled, the people trust their elites less, even though they have seized almost universal control over the legacy media, even though they have seized almost universal control of what big tech will allow on platforms, even though they've seized almost universal control of the narrative, use of the words misinformation, things like that. They're totally in control. Almost exclusive control, and yet it's not enough, because you can control ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, YouTube, Twitter, but there is a whole internet out there. I agree, Dennis. There is a whole internet out there that, in spite of their best efforts, they can't shut down. And we can take solace in that. Here's where it gets weird, just to show you how deeply they are in control of that. So again, that was Mary Woods. That was Mary Woods, a professor, or Mary Wood rather, a professor of economics. Now, I went to Google that. Mary Woods World Economic Forum, right? The first results that I pulled up, even though I very clearly typed her name, Mary Woods World Economic Forum, into the search engine, the first things that came up were human rights, the World Economic Forum; frontier risks, the World Economic Forum; the Great Narrative, a call to action, World Economic Forum. There are apparently several alternative spellings of her name, if we believe Google. there is a list of delegates to the World Economic Forum, global political economy theory and practice in Google Books that was totally fucking unrelated. That was under all. Now, same search engine, I look for videos and we hear the surprising link between science fiction and economic history. Only that video is about Mary Shelley. This architect says wood could be the future of our cities. The architect wants cities built out of wood. Reimagining the travel experience. This is what I got. Again, Mary Wood's World Economic Forum. But again, nobody's fucking manipulating algorithms. I went on a tear-ass search for that video so much that I tried another Google search. I just clicked on that window here. Majority of people trust their elite less. That was exactly what I entered into Google. Okay. Here's what came up. Pew Research, Americans trust in... Trust and distrust in America. That was the first result that pulled up. Why we stopped trusting elites, declining trust in elites, and why we should worry about it. Finally, we get down to a Reddit forum where they actually bring it up from the World Economic Forum, and you finally find the video. And there we have it. The good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more. The bad news is the majority of the people trusted their elites less. Why? Because the Great Awakening. Why? Because they see the writing on the fucking wall and they've had enough. The mob have shown themselves for exactly what they are. And the state that requires the power of the mob, and the mob that requires the power of the state, they are mutually benefit. They are engaged in a very symbiotic relationship, shall we say. The left politicians, the extreme left politicians, even the ones that try to pass themselves off as mainstream liberals, need the mob. They need them. They need them as boots on the ground. They need them as their shock troops. The guys that are going out and, setting, kicking tires and lighting fires, mostly lighting fires, slashing tires and lighting fires. How about we go with that? They need them. Throwing firebombs at federal courthouses. They need them. Pulling down statues. They need them. Setting Secret Service guard checks outside the White House on fire, because that's not an insurrection. They need them. Why? Because the left, their politicians, the controllers, they cannot be seen to have their fingers in those dirty little pies. And why does the mob need the politicians? Because you know as well as I do, and I've met one exception in my entire life. His name is Jeff Monson, and he is a scary motherfucker. But I have met one exception in my entire life to this ironclad rule, which is leftists are pussies. Gutless, spineless pussies to a fucking man. In air quotes. To a fucking man. They're gutless. They're spineless. Their idea of direct action is pepper spraying women from ambush, hitting elderly people in the back of the head with a hammer for wearing MAGA hats, mob attacks. They're gutless. They're pieces of shit. Individually and collectively. So while they can get their licks in and hurt people and do some serious damage, make no mistake, they're gutless. And without the power of a state to enforce their bankrupt fucking ideas, they are nothing. That is why the truth is being hidden. Because they know that fundamentally the people in the middle are suckers for the truth. You want the truth about who's really fucking advocating for freedom right now? And GW like this. It's those Canadian truckers. It's those goddamn Canadian truckers. And don't forget, like anything else. What are the truckers? This from Yahoo News right here. Lack of action at truckers' blockades show what kind of intent of Alberta's Infrastructure Defense Act. What does it show, guys? Come on. You know the word. It's the R word. Lack of action at truckers' blockades shows the racist intent of Alberta's Critical Infrastructure Defense Act. How do you like that? Once again, we're back to racism. The truckers must be racist. There's simply no other alternative. Yeah, you can hear what's going on. I'm having some difficulties with the laptop. We're going to run with it, though. Yes, they're horrible. They're racist. They're violent. We saw with our own fucking eyes. Let me go back to this. Remember, boys and girls, this was a mostly peaceful protest. They beat us over the head with that for an entire goddamn year and a half. This was a peaceful protest. And this is what they're calling violence. What was it Kuntz said about the hatred of truth being a vice? Anyone who is on that side, by default, hates the fucking truth now. Because the truth couldn't be more obvious. If you're ignoring it, it's because you're willfully fucking blind. And I break no bread with these people anymore. I'm cutting them out of my life left and right. Sympathy's fucking gone. I just don't have the patience for it anymore. Get out here in the real world, man. Get out here on a blue-collar fucking job site. Work a fucking job. Run some heavy machinery. Be like G-Dub. Drive a fucking truck. Talk to people. You know what they're afraid of? Here's the thing that they can't. Even with big tech, and even if they could shut down the internet, they can't. But even if they could, the one thing they can't shut down is what we are doing right now. How many times have you heard me say it? Keep talking. Speak. Do you think the Soviet Union fell because of any one particular historical event? Do you think totalitarian regimes ever really fall because of one particular historical event? They fall because of a million conversations just like the one we're having now. Truckers are on CB radios. You can't shut them all down. They talk to each other. They sit in diners. They talk to people that talk to other people. And again, fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. So how does the left react? The left reacts like this. Driving through the Freedom Trucker protest in Canada. Yeah, the Freedom Trucker protest. Those horrible racists, the Freedom Trucker protests in Canada. Leftist drives right through the fucking middle of them. Drives right through. 4-engine. Now, the media made a lot of people driving through protesters during the riots. The media did a ton of spin control to try to justify every single thing that the rioters did while demonizing anyone who dared to defy them. Funny how that works out. But again, they're doing the same thing in Canada. These truckers are taking a stand for freedom. They have hurt no one, and yet they're being called racist and violent. They've shut down a city by honking their horns. Oh, it's terrorism. Do you see the writing on the wall yet? Right, you do, because you're part of the awakening and therefore part of the unraveling. GoFundMe, I'll tell you what they did this week. They basically tried to seize $10 million in funds that had been allocated to those truckers. A $10 million fund had been created, $42,000, which was donated by none other than Elon Musk. Once again, go Elon. Elon's one of us. methinks. They tried to seize $10 million without refunding it. They weren't gonna do what they do with every other fucking thing. Now keep in mind, this is the same GoFundMe that allowed fundraisers for bail for Portland rioters, that allowed fundraisers for the Chaz Chop occupation zone in Seattle, where people were raped and murdered. They continued that throughout the duration. Even after the first murders had occurred in Chaz Chop, they continued to allow their GoFundMe to exist. But you get a couple of squealing doxers, and GoFundMe does what they do. They show their true colors, and they try. Not only did they shut down the GoFundMe, but they tried to steal the money. They said, we're just going to take the money, and instead of returning it, which is allegedly their policy, to the original donors, we're going to seize it and we're going to donate to legitimate charities of their choosing, of course. They later recanted, not because they had a fit of conscience, but because somebody on Twitter brought up something very important. See, there's a thing about donations like that. It's called a chargeback. Everybody who donated by credit or debit card, all they had to do, if that money was not returned to them, if it wasn't going to be delivered, was contest the charge and you get hit with a chargeback. And suddenly, GoFundMe was looking at a $15 charge per donor for however many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even, for every single donor that put money towards the truckers. So they recanted. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't file for a refund. You're going to be fine. We're just going to give it on back to you now. Too late, Sparky. Because the word's out. People are not going to file for a refund. They're going to hit you with that fucking chargeback, and you goddamn deserve it. What was the quote? Need fosters frustration. All we needed was freedom. That frustration grew into anger, and that anger led to hatred of the left and the power-grabbing scumbag authoritarians that instituted these lockdowns and the power grabs to begin with. Hatred generates violence, and violence sometimes soothes. What have we not gotten to yet? Not from our side. God help you. GoFundMe tried to steal the money from the truckers. They tried to steal the money from the truckers. Then a leftist ran over 4 of them, just plowed right through. That's going to be a new tactic. Funny, when people accelerate to get through a mob that is smashing the windows out of their cars and waving guns around, if they're a fucking conservative in a blue city, they're called racists. They're flying through that roadblock. But when a black man with notable ties to black militant activism drives through a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, it's no harm, no foul. A red SUV committed that crime. I guess it was an SUV that committed this drive-through to the freedom protesters in Canada too, wasn't it? I wonder if GoFundMe will allow donations for his bail. Search engine, GoFundMe refunds truckers, and here are the top stories. GoFundMe is going to refund millions of dollars in donations made to the viral Canadian trucker protest. No mention about what it took to get him there. And of course, the obligatory Marjorie Taylor Greene attacks GoFundMe over refunds on trucker donations. And from Reuters, U.S. Republicans vow to probe GoFundMe decision. Yeah, GOP just out there, the same ones that are out there pushing that racist behavior from the Canadian government. GoFundMe has removed the viral Canadian trucker protest campaign for violating its rules on violence. That's from BuzzFeed. USA Today, nice and sedate. GoFundMe ends fundraiser for Canadian truck. Doesn't bother giving any of the details. Do you understand why I've stressed framing so much in the last few weeks? Do you understand? Everything's racist. Trudeau, New York Times condemns Freedom Convoy trucker protests in Ottawa. Trudeau on trucker protests. We are not intimidated. He says from hiding in an undisclosed location. They're intimidated, all right. But I don't believe they're intimidated enough yet. Let me tell you why. At least on the free speech tip. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent about Rogan earlier, but I'm going to bring it home here. Rogan is on the front lines of free speech right now. Nothing else is more important as far as I'm concerned. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that truck drivers and Joe fucking Rogan would be on the front lines of saving fucking liberty? Who would have thought that? I would have, honestly. I think a lot of you would too, if we're all being straight here. But this is the thing. They're not afraid enough yet. And you can't give them an inch. This is why I keep stressing. I will always keep coming back to this. We have been in a fight for a long fucking time. We are in a fight and have been for a long fucking time. Unfortunately, only one side realizes that they're in a fight, or at least had realized that they're in a fight. Only one side was acting like it. Now, I believe that the good people are finally realizing that they're in a fight. But because they are good people, they are reluctant to use the ruthless means of their enemy. Very reluctant to use the ruthless means of their enemy to achieve victory. Our side, driver gets mobbed by a violent group of hammer-swinging lunatics, some of whom are waving guns around. They smash out the fucking windows. They hesitate. When they finally accelerate to get out of the fucking danger zone, they still feel like they got to apologize. I didn't want to run anybody over. I think we need to get comfortable with that level of ruthlessness, because they certainly will not afford us the same courtesy of a fair fight. They never have. They never will. And we need to be both unflinching and unapologetic about making the observations of the kind of people that we are up against here. And I'll take it back to Clausewitz. Let us accept the risk of repaying cruelty with cruelty, of answering violence with more violence. It will be easy for us to overtake the enemy and draw him back within the limits of moderation and humanity. Now, that last part, drawing him back within the limits of moderation and humanity, I'm not too sure about. Because I do know who we're up against. And I do know what they are capable of. And every day they show less and less compunction about holding back on that tip. Less and less every single day. They make their intentions more and more obvious. You cannot reason with people that hate you and want you dead. And in spite of any rhetoric to try to defuse or minimize those sentiments, I can pull you up 1,000,000. For every one saying, oh no, it's just reasonable measure, I can pull you up 1,000. Quietly talking amongst themselves, like the lady at Davos, the elites, talking amongst themselves about how they trust each other, but nobody trusts them. That's the entire left now. Because when they speak amongst themselves, you should hear the things they have to say about you. They don't want to tolerate you. They don't want your free speech while demanding their own. They don't want any of that. They hold themselves to a different standard, and make no mistake, stop soft soaping it. They want you fucking dead. Locked up will suffice, but preferably dead. Your mere presence offends them. The fact that you have the balls in the spine to express an opinion that differs from their goddamn preordained orthodoxy fucking narrative offends them to the point where they want you in jail or dead. Don't get upset about that. Don't get angry about that. Just get resolved. Get resolved. Because that need has fostered the frustration, and that frustration has grown into anger, and the anger is leading to hatred, and that hatred will ultimately generate violence. Violence sometimes soothes. I am of the opinion that it will be of cold comfort. To actually put hands to these maggots and unleash the hell that they have so richly deserved for so long and would love nothing more than unleash on you and your loved ones and your children. Don't have any illusions about that. But again, I maintain that it will be cold comfort. And in the end, it doesn't matter. If they push it to that level, do not shy from it. Remember our old Viking proverb, laughing let us perish. Amid laughter, let us face our doom. I refuse to get angry or black. I refuse to get down angry or black-pilled about any of this, because in the end, we're stronger. In the end, we have history and the truth on our side. And in the end, in the final analysis, our victory is not only predictable, it's inevitable. In the end, we win. Truth over lies, objective reality over bullshit narrative, strength over weakness. And there is strength in the truth. That's where we find our anchor. That's what we chain ourselves to going forward. And that is what we cling to, what we wear on our shields when we wade in. Weapon out and belly in. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. I'm already about 2 minutes over. I apologize for that. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for showing up Sunday after Sunday. We certainly appreciate it. I will get with you on the details, try to give you a little more advance notice about how it's going to roll next week. I know this week kind of meandered a little bit. I didn't really completely have in my head, but I worked about 70 hours this week, so I wasn't quite on. And I know there was a lot of wandering, so I appreciate that. Look, if you do feel like it was worth a little bit of coin, I'm going to pass around the digital collection plate. I'm on Venmo, I'm on Cash App, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Facebook Pay. Even though I'm restricted for Facebook, I'm still on Facebook Pay. I'm on Zelle. I'm on all those things. So if you want to throw me some coin, if I shaped your perspective or gave you some new information or modified your pattern of thinking in any way, shape, or form, positive or negative, you want to throw me a little coin, that would be great. If you can't do that, here's something else you can do for me. You can get out there and spread the gospel yourself on your own social media. You can get out there and boost my subscriptions on my YouTube channel. Please, please, please get my subscriptions up to the YouTube channel. Like and comment to bump it up to the algorithm. Algorithm, that's my college word. I've got 3 of those. But if you guys can bump it up, fantastic. And hey, listen. Stand strong with the truckers. That's something you can do. And everybody else who is a voice for liberty and a voice for fucking independent thought and free speech, stand with them. That's something you can do for me, right? Spread the gospel. Tell them, hey, man, there's a fat toothless cripple at Rants and Race for an hour every Sunday. If you like-minded kindred spirit, you might want to check out the program. You might dig it. But at the very least, what you can do, not just for me, but for yourselves, is this. Always follow the directives. By now, you guys got the Prime Directives Committee. Remember, what do? You got the signal-to-noise ratio, and it's all skewed right now. So strive to be the signal, not the noise. Strive to be the light in a world that seems overcome right now with darkness. But the iron rule is this. The iron rule. Always be the strength in a world full of weakness. Always the strength in a world full of weakness. Because without strength, none of the other shit matters. None of it. But you think your good intentions are going to save you from these predatory, miscreant scumbags? You think they're going to offer sympathy because your heart's in the right place? You better be ready to throw dogs, man. That's all there is to it. Appreciate you guys being here, man. We're going to get on out. See you next Sunday. I love you guys. Appreciate every single one of you. Peace. Thanks for coming out, man. Hit me with a personal message or something. Send me an email. Love you. I'm out.